Hi, everyone. Welcome. We have an exciting evening for you all tonight. Give a minute for everyone to get into the Zoom. Awesome. I think we will go ahead and get started. More people will join as we go. Um, we have an exciting topic tonight, one that I think continues to become more and more relevant as the years go on. It certainly is talked about more now than when I was in high school, and I think for the benefit of a lot of students. High school brings opportunities, pressure, transitions. Tonight, Claire is going to help us look at some practical tools, supportive strategies, and trusted resources that can help students build resilience, take care of themselves, especially their mental health, and feel confident navigating the challenges of high school and the transition period that comes as we move beyond high school. Um, our panelist tonight is an NSHSS fellow. Her name is Claire Kirsch, and she's a licensed outpatient therapist. She's a strength-focused, gender-affirming therapist dedicated to supporting adolescents through advocacy, psychoeducation, and evidence-based practices. Her work centers on helping young people develop self-awareness, resilience, and practical skills to navigate life's challenges with confidence and support. I couldn't think of a better person to present to you. Her work is very relevant to our high school students here tonight, and I'm sure some of the parents that are joining as well. Um, I'm lucky to be able to work with Claire as the fellows liaison. I also work with NSHSS as the program manager, and am working with our Young Scholars program. So without further ado, I will hand it off to Claire. She has a presentation for you. If you have any questions throughout the program tonight, feel free to ask them in the Q&A section down at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and ask. Claire will answer at the end. We'll have about 10 to 15 minutes for questions. And that's all from me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Like, this is something I'm very passionate about, made a career out of it, and I always appreciate the opportunity to share information, with young people. So I'm very happy to be here and very excited to share with you, make it a conversation about empowerment, support, how to stay informed, and kind of how to best support yourself and support others as we kind of like prepare for the next stages of life. So, we're going to go over a little bit about like which high school stressors are kind of being noticed as the top stressors. It's kind of shifted since I was in school. Um, Strategies for maintaining balance. You have school, you may have a job that you work, you volunteer, you have sports, you have band. How do we balance that time so you're not feeling overwhelmed, stressed out? Belonging, self understanding, how to feel connected to yourself, connected to other people, how to find the people and nurture those relationships that you want, and really how to gain insight about who you are and who you are becoming during this time of your life. And of course, how to access resources, and kind of what is available, as well. So, research shows that good mental health is the key to success across the board when it comes to children through adolescence, all the way through adulthood. Um, Whenever you're facing overwhelming feelings, it can be helpful to know, kind of like how your body responds to stress. So, to kind of keep this simple, I want to think about the brain divided into two main parts. So, we have the emotional side of the brain and we have the rational side of the brain. The emotional part of your brain is going to include the brain stem, which that's your vital functions, that's breathing, that's, we don't have to think about breathing, but the brain stem is what gives us our daily functioning. The limbic system, this is what helps with processing and showing emotions, motivation, memory, and integrating, forming long-term memories. um, the rational part of our brain, this includes the temporal lobe and the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that helps you like control impulses, kind of like think before you act, and it helps with decision making. So, what's really cool about the human body is that we have the autonomic nervous system, and this is part of the emotional brain. It's what controls, like I said, your breathing, your heart rate, your muscle tension. Um, and there's two parts to the autonomic nervous system. The one is the parasympathetic, and then the sympathetic. Now, these systems were developed, in kind of the like we call like the basement brain. It's the stuff that kind of helped us survive in our hunting gathering days. Um, and our bodies have kind of held on to this for centuries. And now, instead of it being activated whenever we are in danger or like running from a predator, in ancient times, it now activates whenever we feel like overwhelmed or stress, or whether it's with school or life. And so we're having that same like primal reaction, but the trigger or the activating factor is different now. And as an adolescent, this part of your brain is active so much of the time, because this is the part of your brain that is developing rapidly. Your emotions and your emotional capacity is expanding so quickly. And that's why it can feel like you're experiencing so many emotions throughout one day, because your brain is constantly creating new pathways and connecting different feelings. Your rational brain is also developing more, and it's continuing to strengthen. And that's what helps you get better at regulating your emotions. So you have the emotional side growing, feeling all the feelings, and the rational side trying to keep those feelings in check. And the better that we get at regulating our emotions, we become even stronger of problem solvers, um, and being able to work through different situations. So, what are some of those stressors that are kind of like the things that are going to activate our nervous system? So, the common stressors that are reported, and this is from a combination research or the JED Foundation and Fluent Research, and these were the top 5 according to students that were sampled at the time. The most significant issues that they saw: the first one, vaping and e cigarette use. The second, stress related to college admissions process. 3, anxiety. 4, unhealthy social media use, which we've seen with like overexposure to social media, which overexposure is considered if you spend 3 or more hours per day. Um, a good way to check is going in your phone settings and you can see which apps use the most screen time. Sometimes we are spending more time on social media than we think. We get stuck in the scroll. So 3 or more hours is where things start to get, kind of like not great for our mental health. And whenever we go past that 3 hours, that's when we start to have the feelings of like depression, anxiety, nervousness. So unhealthy social media use, number 4 on the list. And number 5, difficulty managing emotions. Um, because there are so many emotions that are developing and growing at this time. Um, and we often see, specifically with adolescents, that there can be like barriers to seeking support. It might be embarrassment about like your mental health. People talk about mental health in a way that like has been shifting over the years, but like mental health applies to everyone because everyone has a human brain. So every mental health is a concern for everyone. So kind of debunking the stigma and the embarrassment around that. 61% of students that were interviewed um, mentioned that that was a main barrier for them was the embarrassment. Um, Other barriers, not understanding that maybe there could be some mental health concerns going on, fear of friend groups finding out, fear of family finding out, fear that they wouldn't be taken seriously. Um, and then only 12% cited a lack of time or a money as like seeking care. So we're seeing a lot of it is like the feeling of embarrassment or worry that is kind of getting in the way of helping young people access services that they desperately need. So we're going to move next into some practical strategies. And these can be broken down into four main categories. So, first, we have processing skills, we have relaxation skills, movement and sensory skills, as well as distraction skills. So, this is where we get into the what do I do whenever I'm having those big feelings. So, first, moving into your processing skills. So, these are the more self reflection type skills. So, one of the first ones to start with is recognizing your feelings. There's a couple ways that we can go about doing this. One way is using what's called a feeling wheel. It was initially created for writing, but it works great for mental health because it starts with like our main like base level feelings like happy, sad, mad, and then from there it gives multiple like circles of like more detailed feelings. So it's like, are you happy or are you joyful or elated? Are you mad or are you furious or flustered or discouraged? And being able to name what that feeling is. Because once we're able to name that feeling, then we can tame that feeling. Um, After we're able to name that feeling, um, recognizing where we feel it in our body. Do you carry your feelings in your chest, in your shoulders, in your neck, your lower body? Um, where does that feeling kind of like resonate for you? Um, Mind, what thoughts are connected to that feeling for you? Whenever you are feeling discouraged, what comes to mind? Um, and then actions. How do you behave based on the sensation in your body, the thought in your head? How do you apply that? So that's the first chunk of recognizing feelings. Um, a big one, too, can be identifying what you are in control of. There are so many things that are completely outside of our control. And often, as high achievers, we want to kind of have everything all in its neat little box. And we can't always do that. We can try to prepare for everything, but we're not in control of everything. So, focusing on what is within your individual concern, your control. And what that is what you do, what you say, how you act, how you respond. Those are the things within your control. How the other person responds, unpredictable. What the weather's going to be, also not under your control. But how we respond to those things is within our control. Also, looking at challenging thinking errors. Our brain is wonderful. Sometimes it's firing so quickly that it maybe like makes a little misstep. And these are where thinking errors come into play. So the first one is like all or nothing thinking. So this is that black and white thinking of that something is either good or bad. We're not acknowledging any like gray area or spectrum in life. Um, so some examples of all or nothing thoughts would be like, life is perfect, life is terrible, nothing ever good happens, everything is always perfect. Talking in absolutes. So being able to remove always, all the time, um, you know, and shifting away, from those absolute language to more adaptive language. So instead of it being, life is terrible, today was a bad day, or today was a tough day, take bad out of there. Today was a stressful day. It's focusing on just one piece, not your entire week, not the month, not the year, not your life, the day, the moment. Jumping to conclusions is another thinking error. So, this is where we assume that something is true without having all of the information. So, these are those times where we hear someone giggling and we're like, oh man, they were absolutely making fun of me. They definitely think that my outfit is stupid. And like, I know they're making fun of me right now. Or they were making a face whenever they looked at me. So that must mean that they can't stand me and they don't want to be my friend anymore. We are taking such a small piece of information and creating a whole backstory to it. Whenever, like, maybe someone's giggling because they thought of something funny, or maybe someone's making a face because, like, they heard a strange sound and didn't know what it was. Not everything is so personal, but because of us existing in our own little bubble, we can kind of jump to conclusions and come up with a whole backstory, to finish without having all the information. This is similar but different from catastrophizing. So, this is where we take something that's maybe a smaller issue and we just make it absolutely huge. So, an example would be I failed my math test. I'm not going to pass this year, and then I'm not going to be able to get into a good college. And if I can't get into a good college, then I'm not going to be able to get a good job. And then I'm going to end up living in my parents' basement. And it's like, okay, that was one math test. Let's roll it back. It's one test. The rest of your future is not contingent on this one test. So, being able to redirect, reframe, remind ourselves, okay, this is one moment. And when you're a high achiever, it is so, so difficult to break out of that because we are constantly looking to the future. We are always, like 3 steps ahead, of the plan. So sometimes we have to be mindful and, redirect our brain that, hey, this is one moment and we can work through this. We also have overgeneralization. So this is whenever you make a rule about yourself, kind of based off of like one or two experiences. So if you have like a speech in front of your class and it doesn't go well, then you can kind of the thinking error becomes I'm not a good public speaker. I'll never be. My speeches are all going to be horrible. You have one little piece of information and you are creating this just full blanket statement about yourself that every speech that you ever give is going to be terrible because you're bad at giving speeches. Whenever it's like you had one bad speech, you could have had a rough day. That doesn't mean that like you are bad at speeches. And so overgeneralization, instead of taking it as a blanket statement, rolling it back, being like, okay, what happened here? This was one bad presentation. I know that I've had so many other, 20 other good presentations. This was one. Being able to remind ourselves that there's more to ourselves than this one moment. Changing our inner monologue goes along with challenging our thinking errors. Typically, but not all the time, people run kind of like a monologue or like talk to themselves throughout the day. Um, if you're not doing that, you can absolutely start. Um, the biggest thing is shifting how we talk to ourselves. Brene Brown says, like, talk to yourself like you would someone that you love. If you were to say, the things that you say to yourself to your best friend, would they still be your best friend? Part of this comes in the form of reframing. And this is shifting away from things being good or bad, because that ties in with the all or nothing thinking too. So being able to recognize like what's like a green thought versus like a red thought. What's a green thought? What can I keep going with? Something that like adds value to myself. A red thought, we're going to stop that thought right there. It's like, okay, that was a thought. That wasn't helpful. And moving on. We don't have to dwell at that. Also, using the frame as helpful or unhelpful. So instead of something being good or bad, okay, was this helpful for me or was this unhelpful? Did this get me closer to my goal? Yes or no? My personal favorite, and this is one I got from a friend of mine who is also a therapist, something she started in grad school, and I've been using it ever since. Um, Ideal versus not ideal. So whenever something stressful would happen, she would be like, this is not ideal. Instead of being like, this is bad, this is terrible, this is horrible, this is not ideal. Because saying something is not ideal, one, reminds us of what we can control, which is ourselves and how we respond to situations. Um, but it also, like, saying something is bad or terrible, once we get that stuck in our head, it's so hard, to come back from that. Like people talk about, like, oh man, I was having a great day until, and it's like, well, you could continue to have a good day even after that bad moment. So shifting away from good and bad to either green thought, red thought, helpful, unhelpful, ideal, not ideal, whatever feels like the best fit for you. We've also seen that it's beneficial to use your own name whenever you're trying to give yourself a pep talk. So instead of being like, I can do this, being able to go through and use your own name to encourage yourself with more positive thoughts. So talk to yourself the way that you would talk to your best friend if they were having a hard time. So instead of saying, I can't do this, be like, okay, Claire, you're learning. You can work hard and you can try again. You can keep going instead of focusing on just the I statement, talking to yourself as you would a friend. It also helps create some distance from the stressor too, but while affirming and reminding ourselves of our value. Next, we have journaling. And journaling can take many forms. You know, paper, pencil, most common. Typing, great. Video journaling, sure. Collages, painting, um, you know, drawing, whatever you can think of to process or get those feelings out, that counts as journaling. If you are getting the feelings out into some form of media, that is journaling. Now, with that, you can either keep the journal to use for like reflection, or if it's something that you're like, this was a rough day and I don't want to hold on to this, you can take that page, you can tear it up, you can cover it in black marker. You can do things to transform what you put on paper. So that's like, okay, this isn't defining me anymore. This was a tough day. I put out my feelings on here and now rip it up. I'm good. Easier said than done sometimes, but so beneficial. Um, and, in strange ways, sometimes relaxing, to be able to just kind of like get rid of that thought. Okay. Next, moving into our relaxation skills. So, relaxation skills are the things that we're going to do to kind of soothe our nervous system. What are things that we can get those automatic processes to slow down? Whenever we're nervous, our heart quickens. Doing these things will help us kind of slow our heart rate down, get the blood pressure back down, get our breathing slowed, and get ourselves kind of back to homeostasis. Um, what I like about relaxation skills is you can do most of them pretty much anywhere, and you don't typically need a ton of supplies. So, a real simple one is using hand breathing. So, with that, you just trace your hand, and whenever you are tracing up, that is when you are inhaling. And when you are tracing down, that's when you're exhaling. And you just go up and down, and you take your time. And that's something that it gives you something tactile to focus on, while also centering your breathing and getting into a slower breathing pattern. Because as humans, we automatically breathe, and our automatic breaths are very shallow. So, doing something that is going to open up like your lungs and get you that deeper, full body breath is going to make a huge difference. Doing intentional deep breathing for 4 minutes a day, um, over extended period of time, has the power to like lower those stress levels in your body and like retrain your body to have a calmer homeostasis, or a more regulated baseline. Also in line with that is the 478 breathing. So this comes from yoga, which is also a great relaxation technique, if it's something that you are comfortable and able to do. Um, you will breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, and then you exhale for 8. If those numbers feel like too much, it's like, okay, I can't, hold my breath, for 7 counts. Okay. Then can you do 5? The biggest thing is making the exhale the longest part, because that is what helps relax all of those muscles. Whenever we are breathing in deeply, our muscles are tensing, they're like being stretched. And so, whenever we breathe out controlled, that allows our muscles to relax. Um, an app that I'm a major fan of, no affiliation, just a fan, is the Calm app. And they also have tons of things on like YouTube that you can use. Um, they have guided meditations, they have mindful moments, they have different types of like background noise to like encourage relaxation or productivity, just everything and anything you can think of, all backed by science, which is wonderful. But huge fan of the Calm app. um, Next is mindfulness, which in simplest terms is being aware of what's happening in the present moment. It's not about trying to like clear your mind and think of nothing, but allowing those thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations to kind of come and go without judgment. So we're not stopping those thoughts, we're not stopping the feelings, we're just noticing them. A great visual is kind of like floating like in like a river, and like kind of like the leaves that are passing by. It's like, they're just going to keep moving, and we don't have to interrupt them, and they're going to end up where they need to be. We're not labeling them as good, bad. We're just noticing while familiarizing ourselves with the present moment. What's great about mindfulness is that you can do it anywhere. Um, you can focus in on what's happening around you at any time. So, like right now, bringing awareness to like what are you sitting on right now? Is it, what type of support is it? Is it something that's like softer? Is it something that's more firm? Is there a temperature? Feeling how your back sits against the back of your chair, and just noticing kind of where you are physically in the moment and mentally. What am I thinking about? Okay. What feelings am I having? Where is that feeling? Can also do this with like sound. So this is where we see people using like singing bowls, which are also incorporated in yoga as well, where we listen for a tone and you try to focus on that tone for as long as possible until it naturally kind of like fades down. Um, you can also do it with like taste. A lot of mindfulness exercises you'll see um, involve like taking like an M&M and like putting it on your tongue and just kind of letting it sit and just kind of like noticing as, the M&M slowly starts to melt in your mouth. Um, but those are all great ways to practice. And with mindfulness, you can do this all the time. You can do it while you're walking. You can do it like in between classes. Um, you can do it first thing when you wake up, or my personal favorite, whenever you're falling asleep. And just kind of like noticing yourself kind of like on that surface, your comfy bed, your safe place. That ties in with progressive muscle relaxation. So, this is like tensing, relaxing groups of muscles at a time. And there's tons of scripts and videos out there for this. I'm a big fan of, just kind of like going on YouTube, typing in, 5-minute progressive muscle relaxation. And it'll give you someone who's like talking you through the steps of like tense, your left shoulder and hold it and I'll drop it. Um, so a flip side of that, which is less movement, more noticing, is body scan. So with the body scan, you are focused on sensation. We're not doing thoughts or emotions, just sensation. And you want to imagine like kind of like a light, just kind of like slowly scanning down or scanning up. I prefer to start, at the top of my head and work my way down. Other people prefer bottom up. And you just kind of like imagine a scan and kind of noticing whatever's there. Like, okay, you know, is there tension in my jaw? Is my left shoulder higher than my right shoulder? Um, like, okay, yeah, like maybe my neck feels tight today. Um, and just kind of bringing awareness to our body and strengthening that mind body connection. Another great relaxation skill is gratitude. Um, creating a gratitude list, doing a gratitude journal, things that you're grateful for. Um, the more specific you can get, the better. It takes practice and it takes time. I'll say if you do like a gratitude challenge, so like a 30-day challenge. So like day one, you would do like one thing that you're grateful for. Day two, two. Day three, three, all the way up to, however many days are in the month. You will see a shift in the things that you are grateful for. Not in that you didn't appreciate them before, but you didn't realize how much you appreciated them. And it's everything from like, wow, it's really great that I can, like walk into my office and flip a light and there's light in my office. Or, how cool is it that, I have friends that are supportive of me and, live halfway across the country. And then the most typical kind of relaxation skill in terms of like therapist stereotype is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. And this is something that, again, you can do anywhere. So with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you will pause and name 5 things that you can see. Once you have those 5 things, you're going to name 4 things that you can feel. Maybe it's your chair, maybe it's the texture of, what you're wearing. Maybe it's the temperature in the room. After you name those 4, you're going to move on to 3 things that you can hear. So for me, I hear the light is making a slight humming noise because there's an overhead. I hear the water fountain that I have running, and I can't think of a third thing right now. mm, I hear my laptop fan. Something that it brings you into looking for more minute details. Once you name three things you can hear, you're going to name two things that you can smell. And then from there, one thing that you can taste. Maybe it's your toothpaste, maybe it's your coffee or your tea that you just had. Um, if you truly like don't taste anything, just think of like your favorite thing to taste and just kind of imagine that sensation. Um, if the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 feels like too much when it comes to relaxation, um, a nice alternative is color grounding. So this is where you pick a color and you look for every item in the room that is that color. I personally like to work my way through the rainbow. You can do your favorite color or your school's colors. Um, you know, there's no right or wrong way to do it. So it'd be like, okay, what are all the blue items that are around me right now? And go through and name everything blue and then move on to the next color. Okay, next we have our movement and sensory skills. These are very connected just because of what parts of our body and our nervous system that we're using. Um, so exercise releases endorphins. Endorphins make people happy. And so whenever we are releasing endorphins, that helps kind of tap into like a natural way of like improving our state of mind. So any type of movement can do this. Things like taking a walk in nature, if possible. Great thing about walking is it gives us that bilateral stimulation, which is just moving left and right, back and forth. That's what our brain does during REM sleep. Stepping kind of mirrors that pattern, can be very soothing. Cool down, very different from telling someone to calm down. But having a cold drink, running some cold water over your hands, using an ice pack, things to kind of like reset your nervous system. Power pose. Dr. Amy Cuddy is a big proponent of this. She has some of the most watched TED Talks about body language. So doing a power pose, think, business executive, think superhero, and holding that stance um, can make a big difference. Um, to kind of like help embody those feelings. Meaningful movement. This is yoga, stretching, um, sipping tea. It's something that's warm. You can get like an herbal tea, so there's no caffeine. There's just something comforting about it. Everyone's favorite, fidgets. I personally am a fan of like the little mochi squishies because they're like compact and easy to take places. Soundscapes, that's your white noise, that's your calming beach sounds, that's your brown noise, pink noise, you know, waterfall. Those are your soundscapes. And then dance break, putting on your favorite song and just kind of going with it. All good things that are movement and sensory based. We also have our distraction skills. These are all pretty straightforward. Singing or playing an instrument is a good distraction, talking with a friend, um, helping others, volunteering, getting out of the house, making something with your hands. So, knitting, sewing, woodworking, playing board games, take a screen break, plug your phone in and walk away, read for fun, not something that's required for school. Read something enjoyable that you like are doing just for you. Creating a positive memory box, collecting items from experiences that you've had, ticket stubs, pictures, kind of putting those together in a box. So whenever you're having a rough day, you can kind of like look through that for some support. And of course, some strategies work better for different situations. So if you're experiencing anxiety, you may want to do more like relaxation skills. Anger, more movement. Stress, processing, figuring out, okay, what's adding to this stress. Also, there's a time and place for each skill. So, like doing a dance break, probably not super appropriate in seventh period English. Dance break in your room at home, perfect. The 478 breathing, that's something you can do anywhere. And track what strategies work best for you. Sometimes they'll work, sometimes they won't, sometimes you can figure out, okay, what seems to work best for me in what situations. When it comes to creating belonging and support, you want to look for people who offer mutual respect, who have open communication, trust, and honesty. Um, like you want to feel like you can share with this person or these people, this friend group. Balance. So friendships that are a give and take, and friendships that like support individuality. So everyone is still their own individual person within the group. And having these pillars or these characteristics in friend groups not only helps create a sense of belonging, but also encourages that community of support. Actionable steps whenever it comes to friendships, things like respecting boundaries, clearly define like what you're comfortable with, addressing conflict, not avoiding it, being present, our mindfulness, show empathy, be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes for a moment, and be consistent, like showing up for your friends. Looking at when and how to seek support. When to seek support is whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, you have changes to your appetite, eating way too much, not eating enough, whenever you're isolating more, kind of cutting yourself off, ignoring your friends, changes in sleeping patterns, not sleeping at all, sleeping all the time, or just feeling down or depressed. And there's different layers of support. So, academic support, talking with teachers, medical, your family doctor, mental health therapists, psychiatrists, career, that would be kind of along the lines of like guidance counselors, and community. Those are your trusted adults, your coaches, your mentors. Some resources that we have for helping access other types of sports, specifically on the mental health side. We have the NAMI helpline. Now, this is a non emergency helpline. This is something that is for connecting to support, in that they're going to help you find a referral or help you find um, a mental health clinic that is like accepting new clients. Um, so this is something that's 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time. It's online. There's email, lots of options to get in contact with them if you don't know where to start and for finding something near to you. Um, we also have the SAMHSA helpline, which again is not an emergency helpline. It's for accessing referrals, and that's available 24/7. So, some more resources that are um, more aligned to kind of like right now mental health support. The JED Foundation offers resources. Um, We have the crisis text line, which is something that'll get you in contact with a crisis intervention worker, the 988 Lifeline. You'll get directed to either the national line, or if you have something locally, you'll get connected and transferred to your local crisis intervention team. Um, and then also we have the Boys Town National Hotline. While it's not crisis response, they do offer that 24/7 support with trained um, individuals who are there to help support you and walk through specifically the challenges that come in adolescence. And they also recently expanded to include like college age as well, which I thought was very, very helpful. Why this is all important: your mental well being, whenever you prioritize it, it helps improve your cognitive functioning, which in turn helps you perform your academic performance. You're able to better manage your time, long term health and success, because your overall wellness is improving. Um, you can handle things that come your way. You have more resilience, more persistence, and you have stronger social and emotional skills. You're able to know what you're feeling, what someone else is feeling, and how do we communicate that. Um, and so those are the main takeaways and the why this is important. And, now opening up to questions, discussion, comments, concerns.
Thank you so much, Claire. That was awesome. I was taking notes. I'm
Thank
not in high school, but I think this is fairly relevant for everyone. Whenever I can't sleep, I play a body scan meditation on YouTube, and I don't think I've ever made it past the do not listen while operating heavy machinery warning.
Hey, it works.
So I certainly think that it's helpful. I've always fallen asleep quite quickly from that. Um, we do have a few questions we did a poll on our social media this week leading up to your webinar. So I'll start with some of those while maybe some of our attendees ask their questions in the Q&A box. Um,
Perfect.
the first question is about burnout, um,
Mm.
and how to train your mind not to have burnout, and deal with a heavy workload and stress. I think you gave some great tips on stress, but I think burnout specifically is an
Mhm.
interesting topic to talk about here.
Absolutely. And burnout is something that we're seeing in, younger and younger populations. So some ways to help prevent, ward off burnout. Um, of course, self-care, using the skills, whether it's relaxation, movement, distraction, having a structured routine. So kind of knowing where you're going to be each day and what that looks like, having the same morning or evening routine. Um, Breaking down tasks into more manageable parts and taking breaks is super important. Burnout happens from, kind of you think of like a rocket, it burns up all of its fuel and then it just stops. Um, if you're taking breaks, you can go for longer. Um, Whenever you are someone that's very much a go-getter, I get that taking breaks is hard. Um, Something I did for myself, both in high school and college, I would set a timer. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to work as hard as I can, for 30 minutes. Timer goes off. Okay, taking a 5-minute break. Come back, working for another 30 minutes. Okay, now I'm taking a 10-minute break. And kind of like giving yourself that time and space. Whenever we take more breaks, our brain works more efficiently. Um, of course, to creating a helpful support network and knowing that while you're capable of taking everything on, like you also don't have to. You can pick and choose which opportunities take priority for you. Mm, And that's okay. You don't have to be like filling your schedule with every single thing that comes your direction. You can pick and choose, okay, right now I'm going to be prioritizing, my volunteering, or right now I'm prioritizing my internship, and using your resource of your time, but also your energy in a way that best works for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I loved your tip about like reading for fun as well. I think that's something that when you're doing a lot of book work, it's hard to remember that
Absolutely.
books were made for entertainment and we didn't always have screens and constant TV shows and movies being released. And there is a lot of literature out there that can reduce your screen time and also engage your brain in a different way.
Absolutely.
Um, we have a question in the panel. I think it's mostly about NSHSS ambassadors. The NSHSS Instagram is at NSHSS. I'm not sure if Claire wants to share hers or if she does share professional stuff there. I imagine you could probably connect with her on LinkedIn and
Yep.
get in touch with her that way if you have more questions. Um, NSHSS ambassador applications are open right now. and you can lead talks as an NSHSS ambassador. Those applications are completely free, and um, our ambassador program is incredibly robust right now. There's weekly programming for all of our ambassadors. You can help with our social media content and management, as well as get involved in different events and volunteering, and lots of uh, things there. Um, it said that you need to pay for a membership as an ambassador. I'm not quite sure what you mean. If you want to reach out to information at nshss.org via email, you do have to be an NSHSS member to apply to be an ambassador. We offer full fee waivers based on your financial qualifications. So if that's a barrier for you, I'll send the email in the chat to reach out. If you're already an NSHSS member, there is no payment to become an ambassador. The ambassador application is open on your dashboard. Does anybody else have any questions? Not seeing any more questions for Claire. I want to give a huge thank you for you sharing your time and your talents with us. Um, you are fantastic, and it's so easy to hear your passion for this topic area. And thank you so much for sharing it with our students. Like I said, I certainly got a lot out of it. I can't imagine that anyone here didn't. So we look forward to having you back again, and we'll see you soon. And thank you to everyone who joined tonight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Bye, everyone.